Yeah. So previously we had a talk on these some basics types of testing. So I'll quickly skip this particular part, and we look in the last class we looked into this static testing, and we saw some issues associated with all the uh, ways to go ahead with this static testing, and then we had this fag inspection and the people involved in this peer reviews, and then we have like the structural testing where we were actually running the code and we looked into your code coverage part, and where we said that okay, these options we have, then we looked into this, not exactly this, but yeah, this particular portion. Today we are going to talk about your code complexity, or maybe the cyclomatic complexity you can say. And so we started with this, we took this particular piece of code for the sake of covering all the categories, and we started with the statement coverage, we moved to decision coverage, and then we talked about your condition coverage, and we looked into your decision coverage once again, and then we saw that okay, there is a possibility where we can have multiple condition coverage as well. And then we talked about your function coverage as well. Then we said that okay, we can go ahead with, since we talked about function coverage as well, we can talk about your unit or functional testing, where initially the quick checks are done by your developers, and then we remove some obvious errors in this, and we go ahead with this particular testing just before the expensive checks we go do. Then we go ahead with the debugging part, we looked into the testing part, and today we are going to talk about code complexity. Now this particular thing deals with some basic terminologies of graphs, we'll talk about that as well. And in this particular thing, the idea came from the graph theory, where we come across this particular topic, which is your code complexity. And this was given by Thomas McAvey. In this particular thing, it's like you can call it this particular code complexity, sorry, as here, one second, let me reduce the size. Yeah. So this is nothing but a software metric. Your code complexity is nothing but a software metric. Now, software metric, if you recall, we had a discussion on software metric several times, that this is nothing but uh, standard, it's a standard which is used to measure the degree to which a software system or process possesses some property, right? So we get some value out of it. And when we talk about cyclomatic complexity, so this basically talks about the complexity of a program, right? This talks about complexity of a program, or you can call it a piece of code, or you can call it the entire system. And this is nothing but a quantitative measure, right? So it's a quantitative measure uh, measuring the linear independent paths through a program source code. And this came somewhere in the year 1976. So this cyclomatic complexity is calculated or computed using your control flow graphs, which are also called as your CFGs. So the nodes of the graph corresponds to individual group of commands, right? Nodes will be like commands. Sorry, this S should be here, of a program. And we have like nodes. So when we talk about graphs, we have nodes. The next thing which we have is we have like edges. So these edges which are connecting two nodes are nothing but the control flows. Right. So what we have is like this cyclomatic complexity. We can also like apply to individual functions, or it can be like there are several functions f1 from f2 that can also be done. But here we'll look into the lines of codes or the statements. Now this particular, before talking about the details of it, that means details about this, let's look into this particular part, which is your FNFT 8, which talks about your graphs. So these are some of the basic terminologies. Now, you might have done the graph theory course, yes or no?
No, sir.
Okay, so this particular section or set of slides are going to help you in these things. So when we talk about a graph, what we have is what we get is like we have nodes and then we have edges, and these edges are connecting your nodes, and we are talking about control flow. Here we'll prefer to use directed graphs. What are directed graphs? Very simple terminology. What are directed graphs? Simple one. See, there are directed graphs and then there are undirected graphs. Right. In case of directed graphs, you will find that you have arrow associated with it. In case of undirected graphs, the set of edges will not have a pointing edge. So in a graph, what we are doing is we are connecting the nodes with the help of these edges. And this particular graph is something which is widely used structure for abstraction. Right? This is something which is very crucial. Right? We'll see some good amount of usages here. And since we are talking about testing, so this becomes a commonly used structure for testing. And this is something which is, a very easier representation of a model or scheme. And since we know that it has very few things, so this comes up with a very well-defined structure. So what we do is we use graphs in our algorithm representation. We are using graphs in your neural networks a lot. We talk about transportation network, we talk about social network, we talk about molecular structure, we talk about geographic modeling. So everywhere we find that we are using these graphs. And in mathematics also, what we see is that we have like in discrete mathematics, right? In discrete mathematics, you might have discrete mathematics structures might have studied graphs. Yeah, I can recall in discrete mathematics, uh, graph is covered, and you see in topology we covered graph. That means in your computer networks, you deal with graphs. Then you can have, a relation that can be represented with the help of a graph. Then I can have a function that can be represented with the help of a graph. So I guess these things you have already gone through. Even in case of your discrete mathematics, I guess a separate unit talks about graphs only. Uh, and along with these, these are some very standard usage of graphs. So when we talk about graph, so this is a formal description. So it is like it has four tuples, right? What we have is we have capital N, we have NO, we have NF, or N0 you can call it as, or N0 you can call it as, and then we have E. All these in capital letters because what we have is we have this N, so capital N, which is like a set of nodes. It can have like N1, N2, and so on and so forth. Then we have N0, N0, or NO. So these are like some initial set of nodes. So it can be, a singleton set, or maybe I can have multiple nodes for the initial set, and then we have like final set of nodes here also. I can have multiple sets or a singleton set as well. But will it have a null set? Will it have a null set for both these cases? For both these cases, are we going to see the null set as well? Yes or no? I hope you are all with me in this particular discussion. Well, I guess most of you are not here. So, and then finally we have.
If there is no graph, then of course these two can be null, but otherwise there will be one root at least. So there will be something in N0 as well as in NF.
Yeah, very, very correct, Aditi. So, if suppose there isn't any graph, right? Null graph, then definitely this is going to have this a null set. Or else, if suppose I have, let's say, a single one, in that case, what I see is that both these things and not is equals to NF, which is equals to N1. That's how a singleton set I get. And then E is like E is the set of edges. So in this case, for single one here, for this particular case, I'll see this is equals to E as well. That's the only thing which we have, right? That means a single node with this kind of thing. Or else I can have like multiple from N1 to N2 till NF. This will be the final set. So this deals with the formal description of a graph, and then let's take one example. So what we have in this particular figure is I see this is something called as SESE. We'll talk about this SESE in next few slides. A simple, very simple concept once again. So what we have is like this is your nothing but your N0, and then we have like NF, which is, let's say, we have N3, and Then we have n, which is equals to your n naught, n1, n2, and n3. Right, and then for edges, let's say, let's name it. We have, so for E, what I'm getting is, I'm getting this. Right, so this is all about some basic terminologies related to this. In this case, what we see is that your n naught is going to be, this isn't going to be a single tensor. This time what we have is, we have n naught. I hope these things are visible to you guys, because on the other screen I can see that it's not it's not that much visually clear, but let me give you an idea. This is n naught, and then this is n1, this is n2. So n0 comes out to be this, my nf. Okay, Ujjwal, okay, nice. Nf comes out to be n7, n8, and n9. Then your n is like n starting from n0 to n1 up to n9. For edges, I'm not going to rename, right? It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I have like nearly 18 edges. So I'm not going to write there. You might have got the idea by this time now. So this was all about some basic terms and basic items in a graph, or basic constituents of a graph. So now let's talk about your common terms, right? So see, when we talk about a graph, okay, I have a question for you, right? So is tree a graph? Is tree a graph?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if we talk about graph theory, right? Sorry, your tree is nothing but an undirected graph. It is nothing but an undirected graph in which any two vertices are connected by exactly one path. And this is, tree is also called as connected acyclic and unidirected graph. Right. So two terminologies. One is I have undirected graph. Another one is connected acyclic unidirected graph. Right. And okay, another question from my head. What is bipartite graph? Oh, see, this point just came all of a sudden to me. It has nothing to do with this, but yeah, since we are talking about graphs, I thought I should ask you this. What is bipartite graph? So actually, what we see is like, let's say I have Yeah, someone is going to answer. Go ahead.
Sir, like Jain said, independent sets have connection, and means we can divide the n nodes. Means if there are n nodes, then we can divide into two sets, two independent sets, and there is a connection between each one set to another set.
Right. Mohit also gave a correct answer. Yes, in fact, I missed the chart actually. So, what we have is, like, for example, let's take this is, let me take it as a neural network, right? Now, what we can do is, in this particular case, I have a graph, and where the vertices or the nodes can be divided into two disjoint nodes. Sorry, two disjoint sets. If suppose it is, let's say, set A, it is set B. So there are like two disjoint sets such that every edge connects a vertex from A to B. Right. If you talk about disjoint, I think I should not go further into details about this. Like, disjoint sets are like, if suppose if I draw a Venn diagram and I have two sets A and B, and this is universal set. So A is something which is this, B is something which is this, right? So it's like these are two disjoint sets in the universal set, and there isn't any element common. So it is like no common element is there. Right, no common element is there. Something has happened. No common element is there. So in this case, what we have is we have a disjoint set. Now, coming back to this particular discussion once again. So we moved from a graph, we have moved to bipartite, and then we are talking about disjoint sets and all. So let's come back to our very own discussion of cyclomatic complexity. Now, so these are some of the common terms. One is your like path, another one is your subpath, another one is your length. Then we have like test path. Then we have like reach or reachability. We have like visiting, and we have Turing. So these are some of the common terms associated with your graphs. So when we talk about paths in a graph, so it's like from n0 to n6, we see a directed path, right, from here to here to here to here to here. We started from n0, we have these to n6, and there exists a directed path. Right, there exists. That means I can reach a particular node from a predefined node, and then that particular thing will be called as your path. Right. So basically, it's like all these things you do in your graph theory course, right? Which is, I guess, which seems to be an elective one. So like path is like is a sequence of edges, right? You can call it. Let's say I have like A, I have B, I have C, I have D, and E. So I have sequence of edges which is joining a sequence of vertices. And now this can be, in case of undirected, let's assume, suppose if this would have been an undirected graph, so we would get n number of paths in it, right? N number of paths in it. Now that means if suppose I have a directed graph, then the paths between two edges will be comparatively lower as compared to that we can have in case of undirected graph, right? That we can have in case of undirected graphs. That's how we find a basic difference in this one. Now one major point to note is that in case of your graph theory, sorry, in case of your testing, a particular path, now note this thing which is very crucial, a particular path represents execution of, sorry, execution of a test case. Right. A particular path represents the execution of a test case. Any doubts up till now? See, this point will be much more clearer when we'll focus on your control flow graphs. Now next is your subpaths, because we have talked about paths. So the next thing we are left with in this particular case is your subpath. Path of a path P is a subsequence of P. And sometimes P itself. Sometimes P itself. So what we have in this particular thing, that let's assume I have a sequence of A, B, C, D, E. So let's say we make it capital P, right? If suppose P is equals to A, comma B, comma C, comma D, comma E. So P sub will be, it can be, simple A, it can be, A comma B, it can be A comma B comma C, it can be simple D comma E, or it can be your A comma B comma C comma D comma E, and all sorts of possible permutations and combinations. Not permutations and combinations, sorry, because I cannot have, A comma C. That does not make any sense. So this is something which is not possible. There will be a subsequence from this particular list. Right, so it's like kind of a subsequence subset. That's in case of your subpath of a graph. Now, next is your length in a path. That means it is the number of edges in a path from the node Ni to Nf. Right, Ni is like from where the path started, Nf is the final destination. So in this particular case, let's say I have to start from N0 to N6, then what I see is like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the length is 5 in this particular case. Length becomes 5. Now, next is your, one second, I can see some question. Yeah, so Ujjwal, is length of the graph the maximum length that can be obtained? No, length of a graph does not make any sense. Length in a graph will be there. That would be between two nodes. Between two nodes. Right, between two nodes. So it will be like, if suppose I have, let's say, I have to find from n3 to n7, so the length will be one only, right? From here to here, it's like one only. If I find from n0 to n8, right, then I can see 1 and 2. Then the length will be 2, right? If suppose I see from n0 to n5, in that case I see n1 to 3, so my length becomes 3, right? That's how we calculate. So it's like the number of edges between two nodes. In case of directed, the graphs, I need to look for the directions of nodes. That means whether there exists a path or not. Right, there exists a path or not. I hope I'm able to clarify. Yeah, okay. In the meantime, any doubts up till now? So I know only 6 of you are here, and if you have any doubt, then simply you can unmute your mic and we can have a discussion on it. Because 6 people will not create any chaos in the class, right? If the mic goes unmute. Okay. Yeah, John. Yeah.
If between two nodes there exists two or more paths,
Yeah.
then
If
how
suppose,
the length
yeah.
different?
Yeah. So if suppose I find there are more than 2 paths between the 2 nodes, in that case, we'll consider the shortest one. The shortest distance will be considered. And that's how we, move towards your, shortest path algorithm, where we see, traveling salesman and that stuff. You might have gone through all these algorithms in your data structures. I guess you might have, yeah, in your data structures, you might have gone through your TSP problem, traveling salesman problem. And there is another, very interesting problem, in discrete mathematics. Uh, in discrete mathematics, you might have done a 7 bridges problem. Yes or no? 7 bridges problem. It's like a very old historical problem. It's called as 7 bridges problem, or you can call it as a Koniberg problem. So it's like in Prussia there is a city called as Koniberg, and then what we have is we have a Prigel River. Prigel, I guess it's Prigel only, and then we have bridges on it, right? So there are like 7 bridges on it, and that particular problem maybe we'll take separately, because then that gave the idea about Euler's analysis as well. So Euler problem is also included, but just for giving you the basic idea that we started talking about the seven bridges problem. So it's a very interesting problem. I would suggest you to go through this particular discussion. I mean, if you like discrete mathematics or graph theory. So yeah, coming back to the same link. Yeah, in fact, I would suggest you to go back, and then if suppose you don't get this particular problem, then we can have a separate discussion on it, because I like this particular problem, seven bridges problem, and you'll find tons of material on this particular thing as well. In fact, I'll write you so that you can go through that particular problem as well. See, this is just for uh, your reading. Right? It is called as seven bridges problem. Right, it is called as seven bridges problem, and this is in some of the places it is called as Euler's theorem. Later on came into existence. In some of the places it is called as Koniberg. So it is Koniberg problem. So interesting one. In fact, if you like history and all, you can read the history of Prussia also. Right. So coming back to this particular discussion once again. Next is your test path in a graph. Right. Next is your test path in a graph. So basically, a test path represents a test path represents a path that is executed during a test run. Right, so it's like from here to here, this particular path gets executed in a test run. So it's like a path or maybe a control flow which is under consideration. A path or the control flow which is under consideration. Now, the next one is like your reach or reachability in a graph. So it's like we say that a particular node n, let's say a node n, is reachable from node m if there exists a path from m to n. Right, so a node n is reachable from node m if there exists a path from m to n. It's like, if suppose from n5 I can see n4 I can see n5 is reachable because there exists a path, sorry, there exists a path from n4 to n5. So you can see that, okay, this is something which is reachable, right? I can reach n5 from n4, or maybe there exists a path from n0 to n5. So this is something which is my m, this is something which is my n. So it's reachable. Now, next is some very simple terms: visiting, touring. Right. So in case of visiting, a test path P visits a node N if N is in P. right? That means visiting means I'm visiting n, and this n is in this particular path, right? This n is in this particular path, so I'm visiting n. Now next is touring, right? Next is your touring. Touring means previously it was visiting. Touring will deal with the path only. So a test path P tours subpath Q if Q is a subpath of P. Right, so in this I can see there is a subpath from here to here to here of this particular path P. So I'm going ahead with touring of this particular set. Right, previously in case of visiting I was dealing with nodes. In case of touring I am dealing with path. That's the only difference. So last one is your SESE, right? In the initial discussion I introduced this particular term SESE. So SE stands for single entry and single exit graph. So in this particular thing, which means your N naught and NF will be a singleton set. That means sets having single values. So all the test paths start at the single node and end at another node. So in this particular diagram, I have 4 test paths. I have 4 test paths. One is your A, B, D, F, G. A, B, D, F, G. Another one I can see is A, C, D, E, G. Another one I can see is A, B, D, E, G. And the last one which I can see is A, C, D, F, G. Right, A, C, D, F, and G. Right, the first one was like AB, then AC. AB and then AC. So this particular combination, because since the graph is made in a way that I can see 2 combinations existing from here, 2 combinations existing from here. So that's why we are getting like 4 test paths in this single entry and single exit graph. Now next is your control flow graphs. Right, maybe I can see I can take a pause and maybe we'll start discussion on control flow graphs in the next class, and we'll finish the cyclomatic complexity in the next class only, right? So we'll be able to finish all these terms in the next class. Any doubts up till now, or we are good for today? Any doubts up till now? Okay, Ujjwal. Okay, I got your answer. Yeah, so then see you on Tuesday.